Welcome to one of the most disturbing cases ever recorded in history. Before we begin, I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact time you're listening to this narration. We're interested in knowing which places and what times of day or night these documented events reach. A railway line, once vibrant with life, now hosts only a legend, the ghost train that appears and vanishes in the dead of night. Do those who pursue this train write their own fate, or are they trapped in an eternal loop? Welcome. Today, I will take you to one of the highest and most chilling secrets of the American continent, to the foggy peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains. This is where the story of not just a train, but also a curse intertwined with lost souls, time, and destiny truly began. Every curve, every tunnel, every abandoned station in these mountains is filled with whispers, screams, and an endless wait. Sierra Nevada means snowy mountain range. Yet these peaks are covered not only with ice and snow, but also with unresolved mysteries. The air here is always sharp, always seemingly concealing something. The howl of the wind blends with the lamentations of lost souls from the past, sometimes carrying whispers that should never be heard. At night, when the moonlight strikes the mountains, a deep, guttural sound, as if the mountains themselves are breathing, envelops the entire valley. This sound is known among the locals as the mountain's groan, and every time it is heard, it is considered an omen of a new misfortune. In the mid-19th century, America's ambition for westward expansion challenged one of the country's most formidable geographies, the Sierra Nevada mountains. The construction of the Transcontinental Railroad was to be a triumph of human endeavor, but it also became an epic where countless lives, hopes, and innocence were sacrificed. These mountains absorbed the sweat, blood, and tears of thousands, of Chinese immigrant laborers, Irish engineers, and hopeful settlers. The construction conditions were brutal. Snowstorms, avalanches, rockfalls, and accidents during the blasting of tunnels meant living face to face with death every single day. The records of the Central Pacific Railroad Company show that hundreds of workers disappeared without even being named. They remained merely statistics, silent souls sacrificed for the railroad, relegated to the dusty pages of history. Yet some deaths were not just statistics. They sowed the seeds of a curse, a legend. Every tunnel, every viaduct in these mountains symbolized a temporary victory of man against nature. But the mountains always had the final say. The area around Donner Pass, in particular, was known in Native American beliefs as the Valley of Sleeping Spirits, and any interference here was believed to disrupt an ancient balance. Construction crews, with every stick of dynamite detonated, awakened not only the stones of the mountains, but also the slumbering entities hidden deep within. The increasing paranoia among workers, the surge in unexplained accidents, and strange sounds emanating from inside the tunnels were the first signs of these awakened entities. Some workers claimed to have seen strange lights glowing underground during tunnel excavations, to have felt the earth breathing at times, and to have felt a cold, lifeless wind blowing from the excavation sites. Such incidents had a devastating effect on worker morale, increasing the number of suicides. While company management dismissed these occurrences as mine gases or psychological stress, workers whispered among themselves that the mountains were alive and angry. It was precisely during this period, on a cold December night in 1868, that everything began. A Central Pacific freight and passenger train named the Western Star was entering one of the newly constructed tunnels near Donner Pass when it was suddenly caught in an avalanche. The train was buried under tons of snow and rock. Rescue teams toiled for days, then weeks. However, the narrow and dangerous structure of the tunnel hampered efforts. The estimated 50 passengers and crew inside perished from freezing or suffocation. The train's wreckage was never fully recovered, and a section of the tunnel, according to legend, was sealed with its passengers, earning it the name the Tomb of Donner Tunnel. Initially, official explanations tried to dismiss the incident as a simple natural disaster, but whispers pointed to a much darker truth. Miners participating in the rescue efforts claimed to have heard inhuman sounds from the depths of the tunnel, felt the tunnel itself vibrating, and witnessed a frozen expression of terror on the faces of the corpses inside. This was not merely an avalanche, it was the first step in the mountain's revenge. Some rescue teams reportedly found strangely preserved, ancient Native American amulets adorned with cryptic symbols among the snow and rocks that had fallen from the tunnel. These amulets mysteriously vanished shortly after being discovered. Among the disappeared were Alistair Crowley, a wealthy gold miner, and his young fiancée, Elara Vance. Crowley, with his fortune amassed from new mines in the West, had captivated Elara, a socialite beauty from the East Coast. Alistair was not only rich but also charismatic, yet deeply selfish. Elara's family opposed the marriage due to Crowley's dark business connections and dubious methods of acquiring wealth. However, Elara was swept away by Crowley's promises and her passionate love for him. She was on the train, bound for marriage with Crowley despite her family's objections, carrying a large and valuable diamond necklace, intricately engraved with ancient symbols, a family heirloom passed down through generations of the Vance family. This necklace was more than just jewelry. It was a symbol of an old family tradition, brought from Europe, and according to some superstitions, it was believed to protect its wearer from evil spirits. Legend spoke of the necklace being used thousands of years ago by an ancient civilization to balance energy lines. Elara, though not fully believing these tales, considered the necklace a good luck charm. Indeed, an elderly passenger seated next to her on the train upon seeing Elara's necklace turned pale and whispered, "That necklace will return to where it belongs. The mountains are calling for it." Also on the train were Thomas Miller, a young and idealistic engineer heading west to start a new life, and Samuel Thorne, a senior conductor for Central Pacific, a seasoned man who had spent years on the rails. Thorne had written to his family in his last letter, expressing his unease about that night's route and his doubts about the tunnel's structural integrity. He mentioned that Native Americans had vehemently warned against disturbing the heart of the mountains before the tunnel construction, and that company management had dismissed these warnings as backward superstitions. He even noted that during the tunnel's construction, some workers claimed to hear strange sounds, saw shadows on the tunnel walls, and that the number of suicides was alarmingly high. In his final letter, Thorne also recounted that a child the train just before entering the tunnel had screamed, "The silent train is coming," and that some passengers in the cars claimed to hear whispers emanating from the tunnel. These whispers seemed to murmur the passengers' deepest fears and desires. Several passengers affected by these whispers tried to get up from their seats, but were forcefully restrained by conductor Thorne. Yet the company's haste and pressure for profit had ignored these warnings. Disaster was inevitable. The train, on that dark winter night, vanished into the depths of the mountains, leaving behind only destruction and an unknown void. Among the lost items, Elara's diamond necklace was never found. Approximately 1 year after the disaster, on a gloomy autumn night in 1869, Jedediah Stone, an old miner living in an isolated cabin near the railroad tracks, witnessed an event that would change his life. Jedediah was a grumpy but wise man who had spent years alone in the mountains, digging for gold with his bare hands. His wife and children had died years earlier in an epidemic, and Jedediah lived in this remote corner of the Sierra Nevada alone with his grief. His cabin was just a few hundred yards from the abandoned tracks. He woke up abruptly in the middle of the night. From outside came a sound almost forgotten. A train whistle. Looking out the window, he beheld an impossible sight. On the abandoned, Overgrown tracks slowly advancing through the fog, he saw an old steam train. Its lights were dim, its cars rusty, and through its windows, faint silhouettes were barely visible. This train was unlike any Jedediah had ever known. It was ancient, almost decaying, and most terrifyingly, it made no sound. Except for the whistle and a faint, almost imperceptible creak of metal on the rails. The train passed silently and vanished into the fog. Jedediah thought it was a hallucination. He rubbed his eyes, looked again, but the train was gone. Only the empty tracks, bathed in moonlight and dense fog, remained. However, the following week, news came of another miner in the Ferry area, Otis Finch, who had disappeared after speaking of the same train. Finch had told Jedediah a week earlier that he saw a strange light on the tracks and something like the ghost of a train appearing in the fog. After that night, Finch had grown increasingly strange, often walking into the forest at night, claiming a train whistle was calling him. A note found in Finch's cabin on the night of his disappearance read, "I'm going to the final stop. They are waiting for me. Elara and the others. They are calling me. I see the necklace." From that day on, Jedediah slept with his windows shut, his doors locked, but he could still hear the whistle. Over time, he grew accustomed to the sound, but every time he heard it, a chill ran through his heart. This was not just the sound of a train, it was a call from the depths of the mountains, an invitation to Jedediah to join the train's eternal journey. But Jedediah's stubbornness and his accustomed solitude helped him resist this call. His own grief and loss had perhaps made him as cold and indifferent as the train itself. Yet every night he felt that the emptiness within him mirrored the empty stares from the train's windows. The local Native American tribes, particularly the Washoe and Miwok peoples, believed that certain areas of the Sierra Nevada were protected by spirits. They said the mountains harbored ancient sleepers, and disturbing their slumber would bring disaster. When railroad construction began, these warnings were often scoffed at. Shaman Big Bear personally visited railroad officials, telling them that the place where the iron horse would be driven into the heart of the mountains was a resting place for ancient spirits, and where the earth breathed. Disturbing it would awaken evil spirits, and these spirits would seek new bodies for themselves. Indeed, Shaman Big Bear's accounts stated that beneath this particular tunnel lay a spirit path, which should never be disturbed, otherwise shadow. Travelers would return to the earth and draw the living into their world. According to Big Bear's narratives, this spirit path had been protected by the shamans of his tribe for centuries. In each generation, a shaman would perform rituals to keep this gate closed and warn tribe members not to disturb the peace of the mountains. With the start of railroad construction, these rituals were interrupted, and the veil had thinned. As the iron horse pierced the heart of the mountains, whispers of the ancient spirit's wrath quickly spread, disappearing workers, unexplained accidents. The Native Americans said this train was a shadow horse returning for the mountains. Revenge, stealing souls. They believed that anyone who looked upon it would also have their soul taken. Furthermore, some tribal members, especially during harsh winters, reported hearing a strange train sound from a distance while hunting or traveling, followed by pale-faced figures emerging from the fog, beckoning them. After these encounters, these individuals would typically fall ill for weeks, suffer from nightmares, and never fully recover. The tribe's healers believed that a part of these individual souls had been taken by the shadow train and never returned. Some Native American legends spoke of this train being an embodiment of the Great Spirit's wrath, not only collecting lost souls but also hunting to absorb souls from the future into its being. In Shaman Big Bear's journal, there was also an ancient prophecy about the ghost train seeking a crystal necklace called the Hearts of the Lost. This necklace, according to the tribe's belief, was part of the spiritual power of the mountains, and its return could end the mountain's curse. By the early 1900s, the ghost train legend had become an inseparable part of the Sierra Nevada. Railroad company officials tried to suppress such stories, branding them as superstition and threatening workers or passengers who spread them with dismissal, arguing they undermined morale. In fact, some station masters branded those who reported seeing dim lights or hearing whistles on the tracks at night as mentally unstable. One such station master was a young officer named James Sterling. Sterling, initially skeptical of these stories, saw the train emerge from the fog near the tunnel entrance with his own eyes one night while on patrol. After that, he began to suffer from nightmares. In his nightmares, he saw the trapped passengers on the train, screaming for help behind the windows, their faces contorted in terror. He couldn't tell anyone for fear of losing his career. Yet the stories continued to live on around campfires, in barkeepers' tales, and on the lips of hunters living in the mountains. Every disappearance, every unexplained event provided new evidence for the existence of the ghost train. Especially in isolated mining camps on long winter nights, the train whistle merging with the howl of the storm outside would chill miners to the bone. This sound was both a warning and an invitation, a lament seeking to draw the eternally sleeping to its side. Among the miners, a superstition arose: whoever sees the train's lights will disappear within a month. No one dared to speak of this train, for merely uttering its name was believed to summon it. James Sterling, after his horrifying experience, resigned and dedicated the rest of his life to investigating what the train truly was. His collected notes and testimonies led him to believe that where the train appeared, there were strange metallic resonances underground, and these resonances triggered hallucinations in the human brain. He theorized that these resonances were not merely natural phenomena, but were echoes of the trapped train and its passengers, vibrating at a frequency that distorted reality for observers. In the 1920s, under the shadow of the Great Depression, many new miners flocked to the Sierra. Nevada, desperate for gold? These desperate people were willing to ignore legends. Among them was Elias Thorne, a young and brave prospector. Elias was the grandson of the lost conductor, Samuel Thorne. His family had never fully come to terms with Samuel's disappearance, and Elias had come to these mountains to shed light on his grandfather's fate. Elias carried his grandfather's last letter with him, repeatedly reading the passages about the tunnel and the mountain's revenge. The letter also mentioned that Samuel had seen a strange, quietly staring little girl in one of the train cars, wearing a jewel very similar to Elara Vance's diamond necklace. This letter was a treasure for Elias. It could be the key to unraveling his grandfather's cursed destiny. One night, while camping near Donner Tunnel, Elias began to have nightmares about his grandfather's train. In his nightmares, there were screams inside the tunnel, the creaking of metal, and the crying of a child. The nightmares were so vivid that Elias would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. He constantly heard his grandfather's whispers of "Save her, the necklace," in his dreams. One night what woke him was a sharp train whistle. Opening his eyes in the dim light of his campfire, he saw that old train covered in fog standing on the tracks. Dim lights glowed from its cars and silhouettes were visible through the windows. Elias's heart felt like it would stop. The train slowly began to move, and Elias, driven by an irresistible urge, ran towards it. A car door was ajar. Looking inside, he saw people in old clothes. Their faces were pale, their gazes vacant. They seemed to be in a trance. One of them, a young woman resembling Elara Vance, fixed her eyes on Elias and extended her hand. On Elara's fingers, the diamond necklace known to belong to Elara Vance faintly glowed. Elias took another step, but then inside the car he heard a child's cry. And for a moment, where Elara's hand was extended, a shining diamond necklace flashed, and a fleeting image appeared in his mind. His grandfather, Samuel Thorne, desperately screaming something on the train, his face contorted in an expression of indescribable terror. Beside him, a small girl, frozen in fear. The girl with the necklace his grandfather had mentioned in his letter. This image froze Elias. He recoiled in horror. The train sped up and vanished into the fog. Elias then suffered from a fever, for days, oscillating between sanity and madness. He began to believe that the people on that train, including his grandfather, were trapped in a time loop, and the train was dragging them into the same accident forever. There were reports of others, like him, who had almost boarded the train but were saved, but most were not as lucky as Elias. Some boarded the train and were never seen again. After this terrifying experience, Elias gave up prospecting and dedicated the rest of his life to solving the mystery behind his grandfather's disappearance. However, he never found a definitive answer, only encountering more questions. Every night Elias heard his grandfather whispering, the necklace," in his sleep, words that brought him deep unease, the thought that his family might also have a connection to this curse constantly bothered him. There were reports of others like him who had almost boarded the train but were saved, but most were not as lucky as Elias. An old local diary listed the names of individuals who disappeared on nights the train appeared. All these individuals had experienced some form of loss or trauma in their past. A belief began to emerge that the train targeted such vulnerable souls. Elias decided to track down the little girl mentioned in his grandfather's letter. Perhaps this girl held the key to the train's mystery. His search for her led him down a path of forgotten legends and cryptic clues, each step taking him deeper into the heart of the Sierra Nevada's chilling enigma. By the 1950s, the ghost train story largely remained a folk tale, but some isolated incidents kept the legend alive. Particularly, forest rangers and long-haul truckers in the area would sometimes report hearing steam engine sounds or seeing dim lights on the tracks at night. Many assumed these were hallucinations caused by fatigue or echoes of old memories. However, in 1957, Dr. Arthur Hayes, a researcher from the California State Railroad Museum, discovered some inconsistencies while examining old records related to the 1868 Donner Tunnel disaster. After the accident, Central Pacific's official reports had only identified 30 of the 50 missing individuals. The other 20 were listed as unidentified or missing. Dr. Hayes found evidence suggesting that among these 20 was Charles Foster, an engineer who had been carrying plans for a significant engineering project. Foster's family had confirmed his disappearance on that train journey. However, his name was not present in the official records. Dr. Hayes tried to leak this information to the local press, but the powerful lobbying of the railroad company prevented the story from spreading. Yet, Dr. Hayes suspected that the lost. Engineer Foster's plans included maps detailing unusual geological formations and high electromagnetic fields beneath the Sierra Nevada. These maps indicated natural anomalies in the region that could disrupt the perception of time and space. Dr. Hayes specifically noted that certain points on Foster's maps showed an underground energy resonance, which he believed created a phenomenon he termed the Donner Pass Anomaly Point. This anomaly point could even cause ordinary trains to derail or lose their signals. Hayes suspected the company knew about these anomalies and deliberately covered them up. He believed this anomaly point served as a catalyst for the emergence of the ghost train. Furthermore, Hayes's research revealed that Foster's plans included detailed surveys of a hidden passage deep within the tunnel, marked as the Old Shaman's Gate. This gate, according to Native American beliefs, was a portal to the spirit world. Hayes believed that the company, in its relentless pursuit of progress, had inadvertently built the tunnel directly over this ancient, sacred site. effectively tearing a hole in the fabric between worlds. The 1970s marked the golden age of paranormal research, and the Sierra Nevada's ghost train became a new target for enthusiasts in this field. Dr. Emily Carter, a parapsychology professor from Stanford University, organized a research expedition with her students to the Donner Pass area. The team detected strange electromagnetic fluctuations and unexplained cold spots near the old tunnels and tracks. These cold spots typically became more pronounced when whispers or children's laughter, believed to be associated with the train, were heard. Dr. Carter's team used recording devices to capture faint whispers and the creaking of metal, like train cars, emanating from the tunnels at night. Most disturbing were the recordings that contained children's laughter and cries mixed with the sound of an old train whistle. These sounds caused deep discomfort and anxiety in the human brain. Dr. Carter wrote in her diary, "This is not merely a ghost train. This is a kind of energy signature left by the souls of those who died in the accident, and this energy, from time to time, manifests itself physically. But what truly worries me is that this energy possesses a kind of consciousness that attempts to draw observers in. It's as if the train is seeking new passengers, and it desires these passengers not just physically, but spiritually." A young anthropologist on Dr. Carter's team, Dr. Michael Evans, while researching Native American tribal legends, had read Shaman Big Bear's journal and realized that the hearts of the lost necklace mentioned in the prophecy might be identical to Elara Vance's necklace. Evans believed the necklace could act as a key, opening or closing the spirit gate. He found disturbing parallels between the symbols on the Vance necklace, as described in old documents, and ancient petroglyphs found in sacred Washoe burial grounds near Donner Pass. These petroglyphs, according to tribal elders, depicted a bridge between worlds and warned of its disturbance. One night, while the team was waiting at the entrance of one of the tunnels, they saw dim lights emerging from the fog. An old train was approaching. The train looked realistic, yet it was eerily silent, with only a faint creak of metal on the rails audible. Through the car windows, pale-faced people stared out at them. Mark Jensen, one of Dr. Carter's students, took a step towards the train. Jensen suddenly fell into a deep trance, a strange smile on his face, and mumbled, "They're calling us. My father is there, too." Dr. Carter and the others forcibly pulled him back. The train slowly passed by them and vanished into the fog. Jensen woke up the next day with no memory of the event, but on his arm, where the train had passed, there was a small brown burn mark, similar to one left by sparks from an old steam locomotive's exhaust. This incident convinced Dr. Carter to halt her research and keep her students away from the area. It turned out that Jensen's father had also died years earlier in a train accident, though not in the Sierra Nevada. This suggested that the ghost train could connect not only with local victims, but also with souls who had experienced similar tragedies. Dr. Carter suspected this indicated the train possessed psychometric abilities, meaning it could perceive and utilize the past traumas and losses of individuals it touched or approached. The train seemed to know people's vulnerabilities and exploited them to draw them in. Michael Evans believed this psychometric effect was amplified by the presence of the necklace and that the train was actively seeking it. He theorized that the necklace wasn't just a key but a powerful conduit, perhaps even a living entity itself, resonating with the pain of the lost. In the 1990s, with the advent of the Internet, the Sierra Nevada's ghost train story gained renewed popularity on paranormal forums and horror websites. Amateur investigators and ghost hunters began flocking to the area with their equipment. Many claimed to have taken strange photographs in the tunnels, seen unexplained shadows, or experienced sudden drops in temperature. In 1998, the production team of Paranormal Pacific, a popular internet series, decided to spend a night in Donner Tunnel. The team leader was Gary Thompson, an experienced ghost hunter. The team set up their cameras deep inside the tunnel and recorded throughout the night. Their recordings captured a pale child's face, visible through a car window, which instantly vanished. Later analysis of the audio recordings revealed almost inaudible whispers, including the names Elara and Thomas, believed to be a child's name. Thompson described his experience. Inside the tunnel, it was as if time itself was distorted. A cold and eerie energy enveloped us. For a moment, we were in 1868, right in the middle of the accident. I saw it with my own eyes, heard it with my own ears, and something was trying to pull us in. It was whispering our names. And that coldness, it pierced me to the bone. It felt as if the tunnel was breathing, alive. Time there had no meaning. For us, it was as if at any moment we could become part of that tragedy. Rachel Miller, the team's camera person, no known relation to the lost engineer Thomas Miller, during filming, began to follow a faint light inside the tunnel that was invisible to the others. When other team members tried to stop her, Rachel had an unseeing smile on her face and mumbled, "I found my father. He's here." The team forcibly pulled Rachel out of the tunnel. Rachel woke up the next day with no memory of the events in the tunnel, but her family revealed that her grandfather, also named Thomas Miller, an engineer, had disappeared years ago in a train accident, and Rachel had constantly talked about him when she was little. This added a new dimension to the events. The ghost train was not only drawing in souls, but also manipulating the memories and genetic connections of the vanished. It was as if it was a curse sealing the fate of certain families. The fact that Rachel's grandfather, Thomas Miller, shared the same name as the engineer lost in the 1868 disaster, and that her family had also worked on railroad construction, further strengthened this connection. The train appeared to target individuals with specific bloodlines, attempting to integrate them into its family. After Rachel's experience, Gary Thompson remembered a piece of an old, rusty toy train he had found inside the tunnel. This toy might have belonged to a small child lost in the accident. Thompson speculated that this piece could be a focal point, attracting the train's spiritual energy. He began to believe that the train was not merely a residual haunting, but a self-aware entity actively seeking to complete its spectral crew by preying on those with historical or familial links to its past victims. In the 2000s, scientists and parapsychologists began to develop various theories to explain such phenomena in the Sierra Nevada. Dr. Jonathan Reed, a geologist from the University of Colorado, noted that certain rock formations in Donner Pass contained high amounts of quartz and iron. These minerals, Dr. Reed stated, can generate electromagnetic fields during tectonic movements or strong storms. These fields can cause hallucinations, paranoia, or distortions in the perception of time in the human brain. According to Dr. Reed, this geological anomaly, combined with a train accident, might have led to a kind of residual energy imprint of the intense emotional energy experienced during the crash. This, in turn, caused the ghost train to resurrect periodically. However, this theory could not explain the physical disappearance of people or the train's behavior as a conscious entity. Furthermore, some of Dr. Reed's colleagues argued that electromagnetic fields were insufficient to explain such specific hallucinations or disappearances, suggesting that the event had a much deeper conscious intent. Dr. Reed also proposed that underground water sources in the region, coming into contact with these minerals, emitted sound waves at certain frequencies, and these sound waves could be perceived as train whistles or whispers in the human ear. But even this did not fully explain the train's appearances and disappearances. One of Reed's most intriguing findings was that some rocks in specific areas of the tunnel emitted a faint vibration, as if breathing, when touched. These vibrations caused slight nausea and dizziness in humans. His team's seismic readings showed an unusual rhythmic pulse deep beneath the tunnel, a pulse that seemed to accelerate during periods of high atmospheric pressure or electrical storms. Conversely, Dr. Lena Petrova, yes, the same name as the folklorist in the Cypermort landing story, but treated as a different character here. A cultural anthropologist from San Francisco State University, focused on Native American legends. The Washoe and Miwok tribes believed the mountains were not just a physical place, but also a spiritual gateway, said Dr. Petrova. According to them, in certain places, the veil between this world and the spirit world thins, and those who died on this train may have passed through that thinning veil, becoming trapped in a loop between two worlds. They are souls trapped in the pass. Dr. Petrova suggested that the train acted as a carrier between these two worlds, and periodically it would send out a kind of invitation to draw the living to the other side. Elias Thorne's and Rachel Miller's experiences and the train's ability to attract people aligned with this theory. Elara Vance's ancient necklace in particular caught Petrova's attention. She theorized that the ancient symbols on the necklace resembled transition rituals in Native American beliefs, and that the necklace could serve as a key facilitating passage between the two worlds. This could also explain why the train wanted the necklace. Dr. Petrova argued that Native American shamans had performed specific rituals for centuries to keep the spiritual gate in the mountains closed, and that the railroad construction disrupted these rituals. This, she contended, was the root cause of the mountain's revenge and the emergence of the ghost train. The train was an extension of this spiritual gate, a predator from the other world. Petrova also connected the prophecy of the hearts of the lost from Shaman Big Bear's journal with this theory. She believed the necklace was not just a key, but a vessel that collected the energy of lost souls, and the train was constantly hunting to fill this vessel. She believed that when enough souls were collected, the true gate would open, unleashing something far older and more terrible than the train itself. The most terrifying theory, however, was proposed by Dr. Elias Thorne, a distant relative of Elias. Thorne, but himself affected by this family curse, a theoretical physicist from the University of Los Angeles. Dr. Thorne argued that the ghost train was, in fact, a chronal anomaly or a space-time vortex. The train is integrated with the very moment of the accident itself, Dr. Thorne stated. And under certain conditions, this vortex recreates that moment and pulls the living into it. Those who board the train are not just seeing ghosts. They are transported back to the moment of the accident and relive the same loop over and over again. They are souls destined to share the same fate forever, reliving their own deaths repeatedly. Dr. Thorne also added that the train could be a kind of emotional resonance machine powered by the energy of the passengers lost in time. The stories about Alistair Crowley, the lost gold miner, and Elara Vance's diamond necklace further strengthened the idea that the train not only seized souls, but also material possessions. Dr. Thorne even suggested that this vortex warped time within itself, and anything pulled into the train became trapped in the temporal loop of that accident. The train's cars were, in fact, filled with passengers from different time periods, all reliving the final moments of the 1868 disaster. He hypothesized that this vortex was triggered by high concentrations of quartz and tectonic stress deep within the mountains. Dr. Thorne used reports of clocks and electronic devices frequently disappearing or malfunctioning in the region to support his theory. These were physical evidences suggesting that time and space were indeed being distorted. Elias Thorne's own family tradition of cursed dreams also supported this theory. Male members of the Thorne family at certain ages would begin to have dreams related to the Donner accident, seeing themselves as trapped passengers on the train. Elias Thorne believed these dreams were a kind of mental hook for the train to call them. He theorized that the ancestral trauma was encoded within their DNA, making them susceptible to the train's temporal pull. In 2015, Ethan Reed, Dr. Jonathan, Reed's nephew, a young and ambitious documentary filmmaker, assembled a team to investigate the ghost train legend from both scientific and paranormal perspectives. The team discovered a maintenance room in an abandoned tunnel near Donner Pass, mentioned in old Central Pacific records. This room had been buried under snow and rock for years and forgotten. Inside the room, they found rusty tools, old lamps, and a mud-caked chest. Within the chest, they found an old, surprisingly well-preserved diary covered in mud. The diary belonged to Thomas Miller, the engineer lost in the accident. In the diary, Miller wrote about construction flaws in the tunnel and the company's safety violations. However, the most disturbing part was Miller's final entries. "There's something in the tunnel. This isn't just a tunnel, it's alive. I hear sounds, whispers, and I can't get out. It's as if time has stopped. They are waiting for me. They want Elara and that necklace. I must go. Where are they taking me?" The last pages of Miller's diary were filled with strange drawings and symbols. These symbols bore a striking resemblance to those related to spirit passages in Native American legends. The diary also stated that Miller had seen unnatural, strange glows on the rock walls deep within the tunnel, and these glows pulsed like the heartbeat of the tunnel. After finding the diary, the team began to feel unexplained vibrations inside the tunnel. Their cameras suddenly malfunctioned, and their radios filled with static. Ethan Reed claimed that for a moment he heard the sound of a steam engine coming from the depths of the tunnel and saw a dim, flickering light in the corridor. At that instant, Sarah Davies, the team's sound engineer, captured an unusual frequency on her recording device. The recording contained a female voice whispering, "You found me. The necklace. Now you are with us too." Then the creaking of metal and a child's cry were heard. The team fled the tunnel in terror. After exiting the tunnel, Ethan Reed trembled for days and couldn't sleep. In his dreams, he saw pale-faced people trapped in the train's cars, all staring at him, their mouths silently repeating the word necklace. This experience deeply shook Ethan. After this incident, Ethan Reed's documentary project was put on hold. Reed stated that his experience in the tunnel had deeply affected him, and he believed the ghost train was not just a legend, but an active and malevolent entity. He even thought that Thomas Miller's diary entry, "They want Elara and that necklace," indicated that the train was actually searching for Elara Vance's diamond necklace, which was believed to have survived the accident. According to this theory, the train was not only drawing in souls, but also material objects it considered belonging to it, and these objects fueled the train's temporal loop. Following this event, Ethan Reed realized that an old diamond necklace, a family heirloom known as the Reed Family Protector, bore a striking resemblance to Elara Vance's necklace. It turned out that the Reed family also had ancestors who were engineers involved in the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad in the early 19th century. Ethan began to suspect that these two necklaces might be connected somehow, perhaps indicating an unknown relationship between the Vance and Reed families. This connection drew him deeper into his own family's history and the curse of the train. Furthermore, he discovered that the symbols in Thomas Miller's diary also appeared in his own family's old documents. This suggested that the train reacted not only to familial ties but also to ancient connections established through specific objects. Ethan Reed now viewed the documentary not merely as a research project, but as an attempt to confront his own family's past and break a curse. During his research, Reed found names in his family's genealogy that were descendants of several passengers lost in the 1868 accident. This indicated that the train was not only drawing in family members, but also kindred spirits. In 2020, this cursed area of the Sierra Nevada was officially declared a dangerous and unauthorized entry zone. The old railroad tunnels were sealed with rusty barriers and warning signs were posted. However, the legend remained strong. Mountaineers, campers, and locals sometimes claimed to hear the piercing train whistle from a distance at night. Some reported seeing dim lights at the tunnel entrances or on the abandoned tracks during foggy nights. Most recently, in 2023, Kevin O'Connell, a local journalist, claimed that while conducting unauthorized research near Donner Tunnel, his cell phone suddenly froze, and an old black-and-white photograph appeared on its screen. The photograph showed the wreckage of the 1868 train accident, and in one of the car windows, Elara Vance's pale face was visible. O'Connell also stated that for a moment he saw a hand extended from the train's window, bearing a glittering diamond necklace. After this incident, Kevin O'Connell quit his journalism career and never spoke about the matter again. Every person who disappeared added a new whisper to the legend. O'Connell's incident further strengthened Ethan Reed's theory about the connection between his family and Elara Vance's necklace. It even emerged that O'Connell's family had ancestral ties to workers who had disappeared without a trace during the railroad construction in the 19th century. This suggested that the train's criteria for selecting its victims were far deeper and more complex. The ghost train of Sierra Nevada is not merely a phantom roaming the tracks. It is the weight of the past, the echo of endured suffering, and a cursed loop where time itself is distorted. This train has absorbed not only its passengers, but also their memories, their belongings, and perhaps their destinies forever. They have become part of those mountains and tunnels, and the train, with each appearance, seeks new souls and missing pieces. Perhaps the train's purpose was to complete something unfinished, to retrieve a lost soul or object, yet, in doing so, it did not hesitate to claim more lives. This reinforced the idea that the train assumed a role as a kind of guardian or collector. But what was it guarding? What was it collecting? And when would this loop ever end? Perhaps the train was waiting for everything that happened on that tragic night, every piece, every soul, to be reunited for the curse to be broken. But this was an almost impossible task. What if that train is a conscious entity, fueled by time, creating its own reality? What if the electromagnetic fields in the mountains and tunnels accumulate a kind of spiritual energy and transform this energy into the ghost train? Dr. Evelyn Holloway, the same name as the folklorist in the Cypremort Landing story, but acting as a theorist here, in a 2022 article, suggested that the ghost train could be a manifestation of the mountains' memory. The mountains have witnessed so much pain and death that the energy of these events has transformed into a tangible entity, wrote Dr. Holloway. The train is not merely a physical object. It is a symbol of all the suffering endured by those mountains and the lost souls. Every scream, every tear is etched into the train's cars. The train has become a kind of emotional echo chamber, and this echo chamber, feeding on the emotions of the lost within itself, grows increasingly powerful. Dr. Holloway particularly noted that Native American beliefs about the soul returning to the earth supported this theory. She argued that the mountains absorb the souls of the train and its passengers, and over time, these souls collectively transformed into a conscious entity, using the train as a vehicle. This could also explain why the train attracted specific individuals, those with familial ties. To support this theory, Dr. Holloway showed that certain ritual objects found in ancient Native American settlements in the mountains, used for communicating with the spirit world, had similar energy properties to the geological anomalies in the areas where the train was seen. This demonstrated that the mountains were not just a physical, but also a spiritual resonance field. Holloway believed this energy field was capable of profoundly affecting the human mind, creating illusions, and even manipulating people's physical perceptions. This meant that the ghost figures witnessed by observers or the whispers they heard might be more than mere hallucinations. They could be realities created by this energy field. Another theory rested on the idea of a time paradox. Perhaps the train emitted such intense energy at the moment of the accident that this energy created a kind of temporal lock, and this lock caused the train and its passengers to relive that moment in an endless loop. Those who boarded the train became part of this loop. This was consistent with Elias Thorne's and Rachel Miller's experiences. They felt the train pulling them into time itself. According to this theory, the train's cars were nothing more than a time tunnel, and every new victim who boarded the train was transported back to that tragic winter of 1868, destined to relive every detail of the accident endlessly. This also explained why the train wanted lost belongings, because those objects were also an integral part of that tragic moment, trapped within the temporal loop. Dr. Elias Thorne's work suggested that this temporal vortex could affect not only specific family members, but anyone carrying the energy of the collective trauma from that period. The vortex's ability to bend time also explained how objects lost inside the train, like Elara's necklace, continued to exist because they too were frozen within this temporal loop. Thorne further theorized that this temporal vortex was, in fact, a kind of energy storage field, and the train used this stored energy to sustain its existence and feed the temporal loop. He hypothesized that this vortex was amplified by the vast quartz concentrations and tectonic stress deep within the mountains, and that breaking these crystals could destroy the vortex and consequently the train. However, this was both a highly dangerous and seemingly impossible task. Finally, perhaps the most disturbing theory was this. The ghost train was, in fact, a kind of guardian, a force directed by an ancient entity, older and darker, protecting a secret deep within the mountains. And the train's purpose was to eliminate anyone who tried to find or uncover this secret. The mysterious maps of the lost engineer Charles Foster and Dr. Hayes's findings might point to this deeper secret. What if the train didn't want anyone to learn what Foster had discovered? What if the diamond necklace was actually the key to that secret, and the train wanted it back? According to this theory, the Sierra Nevada mountains harbored one of the oldest and most dangerous secrets on Earth, and the ghost train was a sentinel guarding the gate of this secret, a boundary that must never be crossed. The necklace was believed to be an amulet that sealed or locked this secret, and the train sacrificed passengers to retrieve it. This ancient entity was perhaps the spirit of the mountains, taking revenge against the intrusion into its sacred lands. The train was merely a vessel, an instrument fulfilling the will of this entity. This ancient entity could control not only the physical form of the mountains, but also time, space, and the human mind. And the train was a manifestation of this entity's power over humanity. By 2024, paranormal activities around the tunnel in the Sierra Nevada began to increase. Locals reported that during winter months, especially with heavy snowfall, the sounds of train whistles and metal creaking from the tunnel became more pronounced. Some reports even stated that shadows appearing at the tunnel entrance resembled human silhouettes and quickly vanished. These events caught the attention of the Sierra Mysteries Research Society in the region. The society decided to conduct a detailed analysis of the tunnel and its surroundings using old mining equipment and modern sensors. The analysis revealed a much stronger and wider electromagnetic field around the tunnel and beneath the tracks than previously detected. This field was found to peak under specific atmospheric conditions: heavy snow, low temperatures, and high atmospheric pressure. And this was hypothesized to trigger visual and auditory hallucinations. However, the Society's researchers expressed doubts as to whether the electromagnetic field itself could create such clear and recurring ghost train images and sounds. They suggested that the field emitted a strange energy resonance that defied all known physical laws, and this resonance, interacting with moisture and ice crystals inside the tunnel, could create holographic images. This energy resonance not only affected visual and auditory perceptions, but also caused physical effects in the human body: shivering, coldness, nausea. Dr. Vivian Holloway, Dr. Evelyn Holloway's granddaughter, and a psychophysicist continuing her research, the leader of the society, studied Thomas Miller's diary and Charles Foster's lost maps. Dr. Holloway found clues in these old documents about the existence of a massive quartz crystal network beneath the mountains, far beyond known mineral veins. This quartz network, Dr. Holloway stated in an interview, could be the foundation of supernatural phenomena, especially distortions of time and space. These crystals, by absorbing and storing emotional energy from the surroundings, could act like a battery and then emit this energy at specific frequencies, and this emission amplifies the train's presence. Dr. Holloway theorized that this energy, fueled by the collective fear and panic experienced during the 1868 accident, could create the spectral echo of the train and its passengers. She even suggested that Elara Vance's diamond necklace, as part of this quartz crystal network, might have the ability to channel or amplify this energy. Could this be why the necklace was the protector of the Vance family? Dr. Holloway believed this crystal network acted like the nervous system of an ancient entity residing beneath the mountains, and that the train functioned as an extension of this entity. The idea that the necklace could be a key capable of controlling or influencing this nervous system deeply intrigued her. Furthermore, Holloway speculated that the necklace also drew in the souls of those who died in the accident, using them as a kind of energy battery. This also explained why the necklace was wanted by the train. During this period, a car accident occurred at Donner Pass. The sole survivor of the crashed vehicle was Michael Vance, a young university student, a distant relative of Elara Vance. After the accident, Michael, in shock, told the police that he lost control while trying to avoid the lights of an old train that suddenly appeared on the road. What was even more chilling was that, as Michael recovered in the hospital, strange memories began to surface in his mind. These memories showed him trapped in a train car, among people freezing to death. Michael repeatedly murmured, "Elara, the necklace." When Dr. Vivian Holloway heard about this incident, she suspected that Michael Vance had come into contact with the ghost train's temporal loop and had inherited the memories of his ancestor, Elara Vance. This was strong evidence suggesting that the train could not only draw in souls, but also absorb and remanifest memories and past experiences through chosen individuals. After recovering, Michael Vance decided to dedicate the rest of his life to solving this mystery in the Sierra Nevada, just like Elias Thorne. However, his motivation was not merely curiosity. He also felt the pain of his ancestors. In his dreams, Michael saw Elara Vance and her diamond necklace, and these dreams drew him deeper into the tunnels towards the train's call. Michael had a strong belief that finding the necklace was the only way to break his family's curse and free the souls trapped on the train. This belief would lead him deep into the tunnels, directly into danger. By 2025, this cursed region of the Sierra Nevada still holds its secrets. The train still appears on foggy nights, emitting dim lights and echoing its piercing whistle. Is it a warning, an invitation, or the very essence of an eternal curse? The souls of those who board it share the same fate forever. So, what will you do when you see the train's lights? Will you run towards it, or will you allow the train to carry you away on its eternal journey? Remember, some journeys are one way, and some tickets are paid only with your soul. The ghost train of Sierra Nevada awaits you, and its existence is proof of an inexplicable fear, a coldness that penetrates deep into the heart, and an eternal whisper echoing in the silence of the mountains. This story is like a monument demonstrating that time and destiny are far more powerful than human will. Every new testimony, every new disappearance amplifies the train's power and deepens the legend. Perhaps this train is not just an accident, but a dagger plunged into the heart of the mountains, a symbol of nature's eternal wrath against humanity. And this wrath permeates not only the train's cars, but also the soul of everyone who dares to hear it. That whistle is not just a warning, it is also a promise, the promise of eternal disappearance. Perhaps this curse will only be broken when the train's last passenger is found, or when Elara Vance's diamond necklace is returned to its rightful place. However, this is a task no one dares to attempt. No one wants to try. For that train does nothing but drag everyone who boards it into an endless loop of terror. Would Michael Vance's destiny lead him to undertake this task? Or would he, like his ancestors, become a soul forever trapped in the ghost train's cars? Would the mountains continue to guard this secret and this pain forever? Or would one day a hero emerge to break this cursed cycle? All these questions, mixed with the whispers of the icy winds and the foggy peaks of the Sierra Nevada, continue to await their answers. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and support us for more content like this.